Hey guys, it's Miss Suns and TJ here as we're going to talk about today's outline. Now that I am working from home, TJ and most of the time Martin have to be around me at all times. So he is sitting on the back of my chair here, and we are going to talk about the Glory of Athens from Module 8. So you should have your outline finished. Hopefully, it's in front of you. So just as we lecture in class, you're checking your notes, you're matching it with what I'm presenting today. And then if it's not done, then you already have a zero. You need to be keeping up on your homework because I'm presenting the answers today and read that section, do that information. This is a really, really important topic. All right, so the big idea of lesson two is that the people of Athens endured war and tried many different forms of government before creating a democracy. And that keyword is democracy. What we have today here in the United States of America. We get this idea all the way back from the Greeks. So this is a very important, fundamental idea to history, to U.S. history, and to us. Other main ideas: aristocrats and tyrants ruled early Athens. So we need to know what aristocrat and a tyrant is. Athens created the world's first democracy. And ancient democracy was different than what our modern democracy looks like today. All right, so first thing that we need to talk about is aristocrats and tyrants. Now, we're eventually moving towards a democracy. What exactly is a democracy? It's when a government, you have a type of government and the people rule themselves. So the people are making their own decisions. And that would be when you say the people, that would be many, many, many people. All right. The aristocrats is the opposite of that. It is the rule by just a few people. And that few people are going to be wealthy landowners. Another type of government that we're going to refer to is an oligarchy. And that is when only a few people have power, generally aristocrats. So the aristocrats are the type of people, it's that upper level of society. When they rule, it's an oligarchy, or it can also be referred to as an aristocracy. So early Athens was ruled by a few small, wealthy, high ranking group of people. So they had an aristocracy. Well, they group of people were unhappy, so they rebelled against this group that had power. And as a result of that rebellion, a man named Draco is going to step in and set a list of very harsh laws because he didn't like the people kind of challenging them and rebelling. And so, really, really harsh set of rules is actually called draconian law. And that's when you've got minor crimes punishable by severe things like death, like littering, maybe slandering against someone, and you would be put to death because of something small or minor like that. Then we have a guy named Solon who's going to come in, and he's actually very well liked. He was far less harsh, and he will give out power to groups of people that were not part of the aristocracy. And so he's seen as a pretty decent leader. And at this point, we need to know what a citizen is, and that is the people who have the right to participate in government. And for Athens, all citizens were males who were born in the city. So if you were born outside of Athens, or if you were female, or if you were a slave, you were not a citizen. That's an important idea. All right, so then we're going to have tyrants who are going to come through. And a tyrant is someone who's going to hold power through force. Now, it has kind of a negative idea with that today, but it didn't necessarily have the negative connotation back in ancient Greece. One of our early tyrants is going to be Pestratus. He's going to be a great ruler. He brings about peace and prosperity. He unifies the city, and things are going really well during that time. Now, Greece is kind of has a presence in the Mediterranean. They're going to start developing some sort of monetary system. silver coins were used, and the weight of those silver coins kind of like indicated how much they were worth. And it's going to really help the trade go throughout the region. It'll be accepted in other areas. You've got the tetradrachm, okay, which is the name of the Athenian coin. Corinth is also going to have a currency that will be used throughout that area, but between those two currencies, it was they were both largely accepted. So it was going to help the economy. Now let's talk about the move to democracy. Cleisthenes is a man that you need to remember. He didn't want aristocrats to run the government, so he's the one that's going to overthrow them and institute the world's first democracy. So Cleisthenes is the man to remember. In democracy, in ancient Greece, the role of government, they encouraged individual freedoms and allowed citizens to rule themselves. So the basic beliefs were that all citizens in Athens had the right to participate in government. Um, they believed in an assembly, so a large group of people are going to be making city laws, and citizens were encouraged to voice their opinions. Hopefully, those ideas sound familiar today because those are important to us as well. Other important ideas, voting was done by show of hand or by secret ballot. Rule of law. This is an important concept. It's the belief that all citizens are accountable to the law. Even people in government have to follow the law. It makes like very common sense to us today because it's what we do. If Donald Trump were to go out and murder someone, he'd be held accountable for it. We have impeachment proceedings. He can be arrested. Like any of the laws that he follows, that he makes, he's got to follow. Um, but in other areas where you don't have a democracy, when you don't have protection of freedoms, you don't see that happening. In North Korea, you've got Kim Jong Un. He murders people who speak out against him, and he's not in jail for it. So it's in those situations where you lack that rule of law, that you don't really have good freedom of rights for the people. So rule of law, earliest concept there, and other the Romans will follow it. We follow it today as well. Moving on, changes in Athenian democracy. Citizens' responsibilities, they had to serve on juries and court cases and things like that. Perhaps your parents have ever had jury duty. I never have, but I really, really, really want to someday. I think it would be interesting and fun, but most people find it to be a nuisance. Another great guy that you need to remember is Pericles. And Athens is going to be its greatest underneath his leadership. He's going to encourage democracy in other parts. He's going to encourage civic duty and pride, just patriotism. Think about how proud you are to be from the United States of America. Think about how life is like in the Olympics. You're so proud that of the people that represent you. And he's going to encourage a lot of that in Athens. He's also going to come up with the idea of paying people to serve in public office and in juries. So Pericles is a really, really great leader for Athens at that time. They're going to have a constitution that's going to be established. It's going to be a set of beliefs and laws that are used to govern a state. Now, constitutions don't necessarily have to be written. It can just be practiced on how they do certain things. We will see a decline of democracy in the 330s BC as Macedonia comes in. This is going to be Alexander the Great. Actually, first his father Philip, and then Alexander will come in and conquer. And with that, we have an empire. And so the democracy kind of comes to an end at that point. How's it different from our democracy today? One, this is the concept you need to know. Direct democracy. Underline that in your notes. Athens has a direct democracy, meaning that all of their citizens participated directly in government, meaning that they went to the assemblies, they voted directly on laws and ideas and things like that that they wanted. Now, Athens was just a city, and so they could call the city people, the citizens together. United States, we're the third largest country in the world. We've got over 300 million people. If we were to do that, it would be far too difficult. So instead, we have a representative democracy. We elect representatives to go make those decisions for us. So in Ohio, we have Rob Portman and Sherrod Brown in our Senate. Anthony Gonzalez is our one of our representatives for the House, and they go to Washington D.C. and they make the decisions for us. But the fact that we elect them and choose them to go do that for us, that's where our democracy is. Another difference is obviously today women have the right to vote, and after the Civil War, with the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, blacks are given the right. Eventually, Native Americans are given the right to vote as well. And so, citizens here in the United States are people born in the United States over the age of 18 can vote in our democracy today. All right. I hope you have a wonderful day. Go do something fun and go get outside after watching this, okay? And finishing all of the rest of your homework. All right. Miss you guys.